Oh man, so the market is in a complete holding pattern. We have low volumes this weekend as Bitcoin and crypto, including FANTOM, remain in a holding pattern. But I've just seen new evidence that maybe shortly we could be set up for a big move to the upside with investor confidence starting to return to the market. We're going to cover that off. We're also going to cover off the economic calendar and what to expect this week, because we've got a whole bunch of key catalysts, which whilst not important today, will be later on in the week. So if you're trading on a short-term time frame, or if you're wondering what's going to happen in this week, make sure you watch this video till the very end. Hit up the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, these videos are brought to you by our very own course member live streams. Yes, Ijaz.uk/members, and you too could join our course member live streams where you can ask questions in real time live to get my perspective on the market, to look at your favorite tokens, do technical analysis and more. But in today's video, I'm going to show you that key pattern. Really excited to show you that pattern because it does give us a bit of a hope. And for a while now, we've been in this holding pattern. And I think the word to describe where the market is right now is frustration. I think particularly with anybody that's fairly new to crypto, who've heard about all this hype about crypto, moving upwards fast and seeing massive growth. This is the painful bit, right? This is that accumulation bit. This is that bit where people are like, oh, I just rather it go to 30,000 now and crash so that we can all then work our way back up to 100,000, right? So we're getting into that mindset where people are really starting to get frustrated, but that is where we need to keep a level head. We need to watch the charts. We need to understand what's happening, and we need to execute on our plan. That's the key. We don't need to be obsessed with this stuff. We just need to have our plan, our game plan, and we execute along it, right? So Bitcoin is consolidating here at the bottom of our wedge. If I head on over to the 4 hourly, you'll see a little bit more clearly. It just doesn't want to move. We've got very low candlesticks here, obviously, as the holiday weekend is here. Naturally, this is going to start to pick up on Monday onwards. Monday could be a slow, as I know some countries still have holiday on Monday. We have a holiday here in the UK on a Monday as well. But I know the US markets will be open. So there will be more direction on Monday for sure, because as we've been talking about plenty of times, crypto is following the market. Now, the market is going to have a few key catalysts coming into this week. And the first catalyst is that Jerome Powell will be speaking twice this week. Twice on a Thursday, which is quite weird, but that's what's on the calendar. So we'll have to wait to hear what he says. And remember, anytime Jerome Powell comes out, if he speaks anything hawkish, the market's going to react. That guy can move the market. He has a strong correlation between when he speaks and the market moving. Just something to be aware of. On Thursday, 2 times he's speaking. Don't get called out with that. If he says something hawkish, the market's going to lose the bottom for a bit, and then it'll recover. It's just what happens when Jerome Powell speaks. Now, the other macroeconomic, let's call it layer, that we need to think about this week, the earnings calendar. We've got a whole bunch of earnings coming up this week. And remember, the markets are following earnings. This is what the 2 things on the market's mind: inflation and what Jerome Powell does, and earnings. They want to hear from earnings. Is inflation affecting companies? Oh, companies, is inflation affecting you? That's the key. So if these companies say, yes, we're still seeing supply chain bottlenecks, inflation is really high, consumers are struggling, we're seeing less demand now, then we'll start to see what's happening there. But it's a double-edged sword, right? If earnings just come in super high still, then it's an issue because it means like inflation's not under control. But don't forget, these are Q1 earnings, and therefore any interest rate change hasn't had the chance to impact that yet. So the forecast for Q2 is what's going to be important, because March 16th is when interest rates were increased. Therefore, all the Q2 is when we're going to see the interest rate hikes. Very important that we understand that. Right, so the kind of companies we've got coming up this week, you've got the likes of Netflix, you've got IBM as big hitters coming up this week. We'll monitor. We've obviously got Tesla. You've got Procter & Gamble. You've got, who else have we got on here? Verizon, Snap Inc. So you got some AT&T. You got some big hitters coming up this week. So these guys can move the market, and the market's going to move with the sentiment. Okay, very important. The market's going to move with the sentiment, and we need to understand that. Now, before I get into this key pattern, which I've seen on the Bitcoin chart and the crypto chart, I just want to show you the fear and greed index, which is sitting at 28. It's not moved from yesterday. This is where the market wants to sit. It's not extreme fear. They've not lost their, marbles and panicked yet. It's just sitting at fear, because around that 40,000 level, the market really doesn't want to lose 40,000, because they're going to start thinking we're just going to fall straight to 30. And the technical pattern does show us heading towards 33, 34. So that's fair enough. We will see extreme fear at that point, and we're going to get some great buying opportunities for me if you have high conviction, right? But what are we seeing? Because this is an interesting pattern, which shout out to Crypto Rover on Twitter. He first shared this. And the pattern is a really interesting one. Let me move me to bottom left. And you can see the pattern, right? The first pattern starts off with a returning of confidence. Okay, so this is the start of a pattern. Is you have a confidence coming into the market. You then have a buy the dip opportunity. You then get enthusiasm, followed by a subtle warning, and then you get an overt warning, okay? If you follow this pattern down, you then get panic, discouragement, and look how perfectly it's matching with the schema we have here. Discouragement, wall of worry. Now, normally, like, somebody can always, share these fractal patterns with you and show it to you, and they're always right until they're proven wrong. But I found this one super interesting. I thought I'd bring it up with you guys. You got this exact anxiety peak as well with the wall of worry. Then you got aversion. And now this is saying, okay, we're now set up for a move to the upside. A bit of denial around this same level here, which is about 48,000 where we got rejected. And then once we break through 48,000, we can then head towards returning confidence. So, for what it's worth, this matches the schema perfectly, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, I know this historically from when we used to monitor this back in the stock market. We used to use a chart which is very similar, which is this. And this was the psychology of a market cycle. Now, the psychology doesn't change. Remember, the stock market, crypto markets, any markets are just psychology. It's bulls, it's bears, and it's the market dynamics. So these patterns, do have fundamental weight to them. It's not just somebody drawing patterns on a chart. There is psychology involved. So to the extent that we do play out the bullish scenario, I believe that fractal pattern is accurate. You're going to see a run up. You're going to see some difficulty around the level in which the schema indicated. Let me just find that back again. Where was that? There we go. So you'll get some resistance around here, the 48,000, just like it said here. And yeah, fine, you can call it denial, whatever, but it's just 48k resistance. We know there's going to be sell walls. We know there's going to be bears because they're the ones who rejected us initially from here. And then once you break through that, yeah, there's more clean grass for you to head to the upside. So I agree with that to all intents and purposes. Okay, and again, the stock market used to follow the same thing. If I move me out the way, you can see it starts off with disbelief, hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria, all the way to the top, complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, and then the pattern just repeats itself over and over again. This is the psychology of markets. Okay, so if you've not seen that, have a Google of this Wall Street cheat sheet, psychology of a market, and understand that this is how the market moves to and fro. It's the balance of the bulls versus the bears, and psychology is an important part. But that doesn't take into account the downside risk, right? So whilst I agree that is what could happen, we come back to the Bitcoin chart here on the daily. There's no reason that couldn't be right? We can start heading towards 48,000. We can have a bit of denial here, and off we go to the upside. Fine. But it doesn't take into account the fact that we head to the downside. What if markets now have a catalyst on Monday morning, Russia-Ukraine escalation? Something happens with the Russia-Ukraine issue. Jerome Powell says something in terms of inflation. Company earnings are horrible this week. Then we've got to start thinking about the bearish scenario, right? There's no way the stock market's going to be red this week due to earnings or Jerome Powell or Russia-Ukraine issue or something in terms of the supply chain bottlenecks in China, which is a major crisis right now as well. But no, your fractal pattern shows you that there's a pattern to the upside. Therefore, we have to go into denial and then returning to confidence because my chart pattern tells me, yeah, come on, guys. Got to marry up the technicals with the fundamentals. Nothing wrong with using a chart pattern. Nothing wrong with using on-chain metrics. Nothing wrong with using fractal patterns. Just marry it up with a bit of fundamentals. Always account for the fact that there's going to be unknown news which you have to be prepared for, and they can always invalidate your patterns. Any technical trader, on-chain trader or investor who tells you otherwise is wrong. You've got to take all the ingredients and make the best informed decision you can, but ultimately you have to be prepared for the upside and the downside scenarios and have your game plans written on our favorite guys. Sponsor me posting notes. The amount I shout you out posting notes, you need to be sponsoring me. Right, so that's what we're seeing on Bitcoin. Let's move on over to the Phantom chart, because as we know, our good old Phantom here is just in its consolidation pattern, right? We're just consolidating low volumes over this weekend. Look at the volumes coming in here on these candlesticks, very, very low here, as you'd expect, holiday season, and we continue to be in our bearish continuation pattern. So if Bitcoin wants to, shake its way back to the downside, then yes, Phantom's going to head towards 96. Or if Bitcoin can hold its level where it's at now, 40,500, start working back towards 41.65, then Phantom can get permission to start going to 126 and try getting towards 134. That's going to be ideal because that will invalidate this pattern. If we can start working our way back up and curling back up here, get some support, curve about 134, that is going to help us invalidate this pattern. But this is not invalidating it. This is just a consolidation. This is ideal for the bears. The bears will be happy with this right now because it's just a holding pattern. We're just hanging on there. The bulls are just hanging on, giving it a little bit of a fight, but the bears can come in with some volume and move to the downside if broader markets move to the downside as we open up next week. Now, let's zoom out to the daily chart here on Phantom. And what you can see from the daily chart is we've got some bearish patterns, right? This is bearish with big extension from our daily EMA ribbon, and the bears are in strong control. So there's no denying that. And the same thing from the weekly pattern, rejected from our weekly EMA ribbon, and we're heading down to the downside. And it's my job to show you that, guys. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you go into any project, if I go into Bitcoin right now, on a weekly chart, there are periods when you zoom out that you are below your EMA ribbon. This would have been a big one. It doesn't look big because of where we've gone since then. If you were in this moment on these weekly candles, let's do it. If you were here, this moment, this felt horrible, right? This felt horrible back here. We go back furthermore, these moments don't feel good when you're down here below your EMA ribbon. Look at the extension here on the weekly EMA ribbon below here. But we have to be prepared for it. Any coin is going to go through this, let alone a smaller market cap coin like a FANTOM or any others you guys may be invested in. It's the course of action. It's what's important is the fundamentals. And if the fundamentals are in place, and if you like the project, you like the fundamentals, and you genuinely think, if it's FANTOM, for example, you think it's going to be one of the key layer one solutions going into 2020, the rest of 2022 and 2023 and beyond, then what does it matter if the chart pattern's giving you an opportunity to buy? Because that's exactly what it is. Right? So guys, tomorrow is the big day. I should be jumping on an interview with Simone Pomposi, the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of FANTOM. And I promise to make this an interview for the people, for the FANTOM community. So as I said, the Discord channel's beyond open. Head into the link in the pinned comment below. It's a free public Discord. Jump into there, guys. Head over to the FANTOM CMO question channel that I've set up, and you can put your questions to Simone Pomposi. I've already started compiling the ones from the Discord server, and I'm going to put the questions to him, which are the most upvoted from you guys, the community. This is not a bunch of questions that I've come up with that I care about or my interests or somebody told me to ask him these questions. These are questions from you guys, the community. So let's make this the best interview and the most informative interview with the questions on the forefront of the mind of the investors of the community. That's what we want to do tomorrow. So I'm going to do that interview tomorrow. It'll be uploaded shortly thereafter. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you click the like button so you get recommended that video and you don't miss it. And I'll see you in